Okay, hello and welcome everybody. I am Amanda Stout and I serve as the coordinator of education and engagement at the Pentecost Museums. I will be moderating the discussion today, and it's such a pleasure to have all of you join us for our second installment of the exhibition Spotlight series featuring INTOLIGHT, which is a powerful national art activism initiative aimed at challenging the stigma around addiction. If you haven't been to the exhibit yet, the exhibit uses portraiture and personal narratives to foster empathy, healing, and open dialogue around substance use disorder. Through the deeply moving stories, Into Light invites us to reflect on the human experience behind addiction and recovery. At the Pentecost Museums, our exhibition spotlight programs are designed to deepen engagement with the themes of our exhibits and help connect them meaningfully to the University of Iowa campus and throughout the entire community. Whether you've been personally affected by addiction or know someone who has, or simply here to learn, today's program offers a chance to hear from scholars, researchers, and professionals who are actively shaping the conversation around substance use and recovery. If you haven't yet visited the Old Capitol Museum to see the exhibit in person, we really encourage you to do so. The portraits on display are not only visually compelling, but they are windows into the lives, stories, and legacies that deserve to be seen and honored throughout the community and continue to be seen. It will be open in the Hanson Humanities Gallery, which is on the ground floor of our Old Capitol Museum until December 19th. So you have a couple more months to come check it out. We're open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 5 p.m. And admission is free. We're really grateful to the many individuals and partners who helped make this program possible, especially to our colleagues at the Pentecost Museums in the Office of the Provost who continued support to help bring exhibitions like this to life. This week, we will be discussing the topic of transforming grief, and this conversation will explore the connections between the community support in the face of addiction. We're featuring three members on our panel today. First, I'd like to introduce Teresa Clower and Barbara Francois. Teresa is the founder, CEO, and an artist of the Into Light exhibit, and Barbara is the COO and narrative writer. Teresa has spent over 4 decades in the nonprofit world, founding and leading organizations that reflect her passion for service in the arts. After tragically losing her son, Devin, she channeled her grief into creating the INTOLIGHT project using portrait drawing and storytelling to honor lives lost to addiction. Her work is driven by a deep belief that empathy and understanding are key to ending the stigma surrounding substance use disorder. Barbara was really moved by Teresa's story and felt compelled to help with the project. She has a background in psychology and writing, and she took on the role of crafting these personal narratives that appear in the exhibit, and they accompany the portraits. As COO of the INTOLIGHT project, Barbara is dedicated to shifting public perception and dismantling harmful stereotypes about addiction, and she feels very honored to help tell these powerful stories. Our next panelist is Abby Dvorak, who is Associate Professor and Program Director of Music Therapy at the University of Iowa, where she also received her PhD and MA in Music Therapy as well. Before returning back to the university, she worked as a music therapist at the hospitals and clinics on campus, supporting patients in mental health and oncology. Currently, Abby also leads Tremble Clefs, which is a therapeutic singing group for people with Parkinson's and their caregivers, and her research has earned national recognition, including awards from the American Music Therapy Association, and she's published extensively in the field. We are really grateful to have Abby involved, as she has found many meaningful ways to integrate our exhibit into her teaching and helping students connect the real stories behind addiction. Our next panelist is Anne Breeding, and she's the founder and president of Steps of Hope, which is a nonprofit dedicated to overdose awareness, prevention, and hope. Most importantly, Anne is a mom and has direct experience. She has, after losing her son to an accidental overdose in 2020, Anne turned her grief into action, working to reduce stigma and educate the community and save lives. Under her leadership, Steps of Hope has placed 56 naloxone dispensary boxes across the state, and she hosts annual events such as the Steps of Hope Overdose Awareness Walk and the Iowa Overdose Awareness Day Memorial. Before we begin our panel discussion, I just want to take a moment to share a little bit about Iowa's INTOLIGHT exhibit. Each state participating in this national project features individuals from its own communities, which real people whose lives were cut short by addiction and whose stories deserve to be seen and heard. So everybody in our exhibit is local to Iowa. Our exhibit features and honors 32 individuals, and this includes parents who left behind 27 children. So this is just a reminder of the ripple effects of substance use disorder, not just on those who are struggling, but on the families and communities that surround them. In the state of Iowa, women are disproportionately affected by overdose, and the highest age group impacted is 25 to 34 years old by substance use. So these are not just statistics, they represent lives, relationships, and futures lost that we want to highlight in our community. We've been really, really proud of the way this exhibit has resonated across campus and beyond. It sparked a lot of meaningful engagement, as you'll hear later from Abby, especially with students, faculty, and healthcare professionals, as well as community members, which you'll hear from Anne. Faculty from a wide range of disciplines have brought their classes to the museum, and they've been using this exhibit as a space for reflection, discussion, experiential learning. Some examples of those courses that we've directly reached out to are drawing, music therapy, management, global health studies, criminology, substance use, psychology, and media, and there's more have found their ways to connect with the exhibit's themes. You'll hear today from our panelists how they use the exhibit to create powerful learning experiences for our students. At the Pentecost Museums, we really see this exhibit as not only a form of community outreach, but as a community inreach, because museums are trusted spaces for truth telling, and this exhibit has been such an important opportunity for the state of Iowa to confront addiction with empathy, honesty, and hope. I would like to now pass the floor to Teresa and Barbara, as they'll tell us a lot more about the exhibit and project itself.
Thank you, Amanda. We really appreciate this opportunity. And most importantly, we appreciate the reception that the INTOLIGHT project has had at the University of Iowa. In full disclosure, I want everyone to know that I'm suffering from a pretty nasty cold. And if I begin to, and modern medicine doesn't help me, Barbara's going to take over for me rather quickly. So I just wanted everyone to know ahead of time if that happens. The INTOLIGHT Project is a national organization. We're dedicated to reducing the stigma around drug addiction and really promoting a culture of understanding, compassion, support for those that suffer from the disease of addiction. There we are. This presentation I would like to dedicate to the hundreds of thousands of people who have lost their lives to substance use disorder. These are just a smidgen of those individuals that we have been fortunate enough to know through the INTOLIGHT project. And these represent people from all over the country, and clearly all different ages, all different genders, etc., are involved in substance use. It really knows no bounds. The organization was founded back in 2019, shortly after I lost my son, Devin. Devin was 32. He was a cracker ball. He was very tall. We referred to him as an exclamation point. He was the life of most parties, and he had so many wonderful things that he was very accomplished at. And he also had addiction. And he struggled with that for about 10 years until the night, February 4th in 2018, when we lost Devin. The way that I dealt with my grief was to go back into about 45 years earlier when I was doing some drawing, and I had always wanted to get back into it. So I decided to draw Devon's portrait with graphite, loved graphite. And that was the beginning of this project because I found afterwards, not only was it very healing for me personally, but it was also something that I couldn't stop doing. So INTOLIGHT was born. Shortly after that, I met with Barbara for the first time, and you'll be hearing from Barbara in a few minutes. And again, like you said, Amanda, she came to the project with an open heart and an understanding that she could contribute. And the line always goes down in history. She said to me, "You can't not do this, Teresa. It has to be done." So that at that point, we didn't even have a name for this organization. So it was back in 2019. Our first exhibit took place in that year. And this is what we call that exhibit: Drug Addiction, Real People, Real Stories. I want to give you a little bit of behind the scenes information about some of the choices that were made. And we don't talk about this very often. We don't really have that many opportunities to. But art in and of itself has an immense power to connect with people on a soul level, I like to say. It really stops you dead in your tracks if you walk in front of a portrait as opposed to what we see thousands of every day in photographs. So the portrait work, everything about INTOLIGHT was very intentional. The idea of graphite, black and white, basically talks about that. We talk about that as a metaphor, that we are all created through dark and light and all shades in between. And none of us should be held accountable or judged simply by our darkest moments. The other thing that I think is really, really important about original work is the connection between the hand. And whether you're writing music or you're drawing, painting, dancing, the hands are very much a part of that whole process. And that connection is so important in terms of energy. So that when you see a drawing, such as those that are in the exhibits, it pulls you in. There's also a very beautiful simplicity about our exhibits, and that again is very intentional. The idea that someone took the time, the energy, and the interest in portraying that loved one who oftentimes, as we know, has been stigmatized and stereotyped in their lives. They take that person and elevate them in a museum setting. And as you said, Amanda, museums have an opportunity to elevate the conversation, and people trust what they see and hear in museums. So there's all of that was very, very intentional and continues to be so. One mother in Baltimore, that was our very first exhibit, walked up to me and she said, "Teresa, this is the first time since my daughter died that I have held my head high." And that's a good bit of our intention.
Hello, I'm Barbara. So I want to talk a little bit about the stories, the narratives that we write. The stories are compiled from information that we get from the families who submit their loved one. We ask a lot of questions. They fill out the questionnaire. Sometimes we interview on the phone. And then we get all this information and synthesize it down to under 600 words, which is no easy feat. But our intention is really to get to the heart of who each of these people were and are as individuals. Like, what were their dreams? What were their hopes? What did they do? How were they from childhood on up? just funny stories and heartwarming stories, and we're not denying their addiction. That's why they're in the exhibit, and we do write about that. But we really want to show the full breadth of each individual. So the stories are very authentic, and it's the only project that we're aware of that creates such in-depth stories. And when you put that together with a narrative, it's amazing how many people walk through the exhibit and examine each portrait and read every single narrative because they really feel connected to the individual, and that's our intent. So there's a genuine empathy that happens and a personal connection with each person that you can see. It's evident. We also provide educational opportunities. Amanda talked about a lot of the ones that they're doing in Iowa, and they've done quite a few. Other places that we hold the exhibit in other states have maybe the same and then some different ones. So there's a lot of educational impact with our exhibition. And they also resonate with at-risk individuals. I feel like we've actually saved lives from people coming to the exhibits. We have middle school children, high school children. We have a lot of people that we bus in, people from the public. We have people who have support groups who actually use the narratives as a way to a jumping off place to have personal talks with those who are in addiction. And it's been a really powerful thing for them. We're also archiving everything for historical purposes and for research availability. Here's a picture of our Massachusetts exhibition. And in this one, we actually had a lot of artifacts from the various people who were in the exhibit. Here you see some skateboards, helmets, artwork, poetry, prom dresses. And it's another way, and every exhibition is a little bit different, but it's another way to really grab people and show them just, humanize addiction and encourage and understanding and compassion. And the families, of course, come to our events and our openings and our closings, and they feel very supported, and they're feeling, like Teresa said, for the first time that they can actually be among a group of people who understands and gets what they're going through, and they feel very supported. Here's our Ask Me About Button campaign. This is always part of every exhibition. You pick a button, you wear it. It's kind of our walking exhibition, and it's meant to take the message beyond the museum or the gallery walls. It invites conversation when people ask you about, for instance, Abby in this portrait. Abby, you just tell them a little bit about Abby. There's also a QR code on the back of the button that takes you to their narrative so you can learn more, takes you to our website. And it's a really active way to engage in the public. Whenever I wear my button out somewhere, people stop me all the time and ask me. And it's nice to have those conversations, and you'd be amazed how many people open up to you and just say, me too. I know someone, or there's someone in my family, or I'm suffering from this, I'm glad you understand. So it's very enlightening.
Well, it looks like I'm on now, and I'm okay. Um, so these are some of the states, these are all the states that we have completed exhibitions in throughout the country. Our goal is one in every state in the country. Next year we have Wisconsin, Vermont, Hawaii, and then in 2027 will be South Dakota. And as I said, by the end of all of this, we will combine all of that, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 portraits and narratives, kind of in the spirit of the AIDS name quilt. If any of our listening audience is aware of that, we're working with communities all around the country, and our goal will be a national exhibition that will travel and bits and pieces and parts throughout the country. It's already being used for research and educational purposes, and we are working with an organization, another national organization, to archive all of our materials. As Barbara said, we have not only what you see, but we have so much more behind the scenes that actually didn't make it into the
So, well, that's me. Okay. So we realized early on that having one exhibit in a state in one location limits our reach. And we want to educate everyone across the state because this is a statewide submission process. So in order to address that, we came up with something called Continuing the Conversation. And I don't think we've mentioned yet, but we gift all the portraits at the end of the exhibition to the families who submitted. That's their gift. So you can see the replications here. These are replications done on aluminum, and they're easy to transport, and they have the narrative attached right below them. So we have come up with this idea of developing CTC, as we call it, in order to reach out in the rural areas of the state and everywhere that we can. So in every state, where our aim is to replicate the exhibition and travel it around. It's very effective as an educational tool. It's the same purpose as the original, only we get to do it even more often. There's training and education around the disease of addiction. It humanizes addiction. There's a lot of community engagement, and people really change their attitudes. I can tell you that even since I started writing the narratives, my attitude has changed. I mean, I didn't have a bad attitude about people in addiction, but I was not as educated as I thought I was. And the more you immerse yourself in this, and the more you hear people's individual stories, you start to really feel an attachment to them as a human being and as they are. So it really promotes community awareness and reduces stigma and judgment. And again, the continuing conversation is a whole set. It includes the portraits, narratives, and they're size 15 by 23. We put them on easels, so you can hang them on the wall. The Ask Me About Button campaign is available. And something we didn't mention before is we have a facilitator guide for use with the exhibition. And this is like a way to just anyone who wants to walk through the exhibition or bring a group in, they can use our facilitator guide, and it helps them to do a slow looking exercise and really get into each individual and talk about, who they identify with and why and what their feelings are about the exhibition. And in every exhibition, when school kids come through there, and it always there's 3 or 4 in the group that have addiction in their home, and they're always grateful for being able to discuss these things with their peers, because then they get support rather than being othered by people. So it's quite an effective exhibit, both in its original form and in the continuing the education, the conversation. That's you, Teresa.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, so I know that timing is a little bit of an issue now, but this slide really talks about the way that the exhibit has been used. One thing that we're particularly happy with is how medical professionals have turned to the portraits, and this is an example here of the fellow looking at portraits for compassion. That the medical professions are often fatigued by what they experience, and particularly in addiction medicine. So we're grateful. And had the government not shut down, we would have been in NIDA next week presenting to clinicians and researchers with our work. And it's currently hanging, an exhibit is hanging in their office in Baltimore. So we've done a lot in terms of outreach. We have certainly a lot more to do, but it has been very well received for sure. And these are just some more of the images from our traveling exhibition. And finally, I would just like to say Nora Volkow is the director of NIDA, the National Institute of Drug Abuse. Nora is a tremendous proponent of the INTOLIGHT project. And basically, we're all in the same page in terms of we have to get past stigma in order for treatment to really be effective. And if we have stigma, people that need the help and support and their families will not ask for it and will not get it in many cases. So this is just a quote that Nora has. It's part of our catalog that she wrote the foreword on. So we're very, very proud of our association with that organization. This exhibit is available. If any of our listeners would like more information about it and bringing an exhibit to their state, there's plenty of states that we are still looking for venues. We would ask that you'd reach out to us. And finally, we're back to what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for sharing. It's really inspiring to hear from you directly how you were able to start this vision and be able to turn it into a successful nationwide project that's reaching so many communities, including being in our own community. While I have you both, would you just mind briefly expanding on how you met? You talked about how you started the project together, but how did you meet before that?
Well, that's kind of a funny story. We were at a Martin Luther King breakfast together, and I had never met Barbara. But this was around the time in February that these little seeds and kernels of ideas were forming in my mind. And somehow I was tremendously attracted to her and her manner. To know Barbara is to know a calmness and a beauty about her. And I asked her if I could bring a pot of soup over, that lentil soup and some bread, and we would chat about this idea. And she opened her arms up and said, absolutely, come on by. And that's how it all started. And I remember sitting on a sofa for hours saying, what about this? What about that? And we didn't even have the name yet. But yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah.
It's great to hear. We're gonna keep going and pass the floor to Abby Dvorak to talk about music therapy.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Abby Dvorak, and I'm an associate professor and program director of music therapy at the University of Iowa. In case you are unfamiliar, I'm going to talk first just briefly about music therapy. So music therapy is an evidence-based healthcare profession in which credentialed professionals use music interventions to accomplish individualized client goals within a therapeutic relationship. Music therapists work with people from beginning of life to end of life in a variety of settings, including mental health, medical, rehabilitation, education, and private practice. Because of the overlapping systems in the brain with music processing and also other systems like emotion, attention, memory, speech, and motor, just to give a few examples, music therapists can affect change across physical, psychological, and social outcomes of individuals and groups. And, we use music to help people, but this really requires special education, training, and experience, because if we don't apply music appropriately, it can actually do harm. And so as part of our training, our students learn how to engage people in many different types of therapeutic music experiences, including songwriting. And so when the INTOLIGHT exhibit, we found out that was coming to town, we were trying to identify different ways that we could engage with it in our coursework in music therapy. It seemed like it could be a really wonderful fit. So I viewed this also as a way to integrate course content and help students practice skills, also help them self-reflect on things like their own biases, assumptions, and beliefs. It helped them activate different aspects of therapy, such as empathy and compassion, that are really integral to what we do, as well as meaningfully engage in ways to benefit their community. So I included this exhibit into a course for upper level music therapy students called Music Therapy with Adults. And legacy projects, if you're not familiar with that, are just creating something with the intent of remembrance. And in this case, it was a song for families of individuals who died from substance use in the state of Iowa. This project included lots of different steps, beginning with learning content in the course about mental health, about substance use, grief, and bereavement. We completed a class field trip to the exhibit on campus, and students had a chance to view the portraits and read the narratives of all the individuals. We also had the selection of individuals happen during this time, as well as reflection afterwards. The students then used specific information from the narratives that they chose to create a unique, original, meaningful, personalized song for the person and their family. Students created lyrics, music scores, and music recordings using their available software and equipment. And I encourage students throughout the process to revisit the INTOLIGHT exhibit, either in person or online. And students afterwards shared their songs in class and completed a written reflection about their experiences with the legacy songwriting process. And with me today, I have two wonderful students who are going to share their songs and some of their reflection. So first up is Sherry.
So hi everyone, my name is Sherry and I am a graduate student in music therapy at University of Iowa. And I study psychology in my undergrad, and one of my areas of interest is to reduce the stigma of mental health in the society. So that's why this project, INTOLIGHT project, really resonated with me. And in my song, I wanted to highlight Devon's characteristics and experience, which is probably common to many of us, and also the idea that people cannot be defined by a single word or labels. I was also very inspired by Teresa's story as part of the process. Like something more grew from the process of drawing, and she brought light to people affected by substance use. So here is the song I wrote. A green wave on the sea, a wind running free, laughing with a group of kids. There he is, a young soul looking for meaning, just like we all did. But no one asks how far you've climbed, only how you fell. So the stories are told, hoping you would hear. So the sketches are drawn, hoping you would see. There he is, there he is, there he is. Eager steps on the mountains, growing dreams across the fields, running towards the sky. There he is, a young soul trying to feel enough, just like we all did. But no one knows how far you've been, only how you fell. So the stories are told, hoping you would hear. So the sketches are drawn, hoping you would see that no one's life is just a word.
of gray, there is light, and in your heart, He is there, and there is light.
Thank you, Sherry. I'm trying to get to the next slide. There we go. Thank you for your patience.
So this was really a chance to memorialize the individuals for their families and help everyone recognize the individuals themselves and not the label. Overall, I found this experience of writing songs to be very powerful and moving. It was empowering to make the songs with so many people all working towards the same goal and brought the program together even more.
Thank you, Sherry. And the other student with me today is Kiki. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kiera Dushanik, but you can call me Kiki. I am a senior undergraduate music therapy student here at the University of Iowa. I personally found the INTOLIGHT songwriting project very meaningful, and because of that, I am continuing it as my senior project. I created a songwriting committee with other students, including Sherry, and we are working to write and professionally record songs for additional families beyond those from the course. When I visited the exhibit, I noticed the individual, Chad Michael Leonetti, right away, due to the connection with my own father, Chad Dushanik, who dealt with substance use disorder for much of my childhood and adolescence. And I started taking notes from Chad Michael Leonetti's narrative. My collaborator, Bree, and I worked together to create his song. The beautiful words that his mother shared for his narrative gave us a really great foundation, and the song practically wrote itself from there. And you will hear my collaborator, who is responsible for the piano part and violin part in this song, whereas I am performing vocally and on guitar. So here's that song.
I saw you in the paper, your home beautiful and bright, decked out for the holidays, one amazing sight. But beyond your laughter and your skill, your caring heart shone even brighter still. You showed it in the flowers you would send. You were always there to be a friend. I see you in streams of flowers. I feel you in streams of flowers. Every color, every kind, bright and blooming, filled with light. I see you, I feel you.
I'd like to share my reflection that I wrote about this exhibit and this experience. Reading the stories of the individuals in the exhibit was incredibly impactful. These were people from my state, not far from my hometown, of all ages and genders and from all walks of life. Real people with families who loved and cared about them and who loved their families back. Sometimes I feel we as a society have a tendency to dehumanize individuals who struggle with and lose their lives to substance use disorder. I feel this exhibit, and in turn, this songwriting project, helped to humanize these individuals. They were parents, siblings, and children who all had their own unique and intricate lives, and I feel incredibly honored to have the opportunity, because of what the INTOLIGHT project is doing, to know these individuals, know their stories, and through my senior project, hope to share who they were and are.
Thank you, Kiki. Well, and thank you, Sherry, as well, for sharing your songs, both of you. We have 11 legacy songs completed, and my goal is to have, with some assistance, have a song written for everyone in the Iowa INTOLIGHT project. But thank you to everyone involved with the project and the Music Therapy Legacy Songwriting Project. This was a really incredibly moving and meaningful collaboration. There was lots of emotion, and overall, the feedback from the students was that it was empowering, it was meaningful, and it went beyond the typical assignment into real life settings. So thank you very much for being here and for listening to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, all three of you. It was really cool to see the cross-curricular connections the exhibit is doing, but also really cool to see how one form of art can impact and streamline to other forms of art, and to see how that can help create healing for you as music therapists, but also the community members it's affecting. So thank you so much. And we're going to move on to have Anne Breeding share.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anne Breeding, and thank you for having me. It's kind of hard to follow that. I was trying really hard to control my emotions, but that is amazing what you all have done. And along with Teresa and Barbara, this whole thing, it's been a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful initiative altogether. And I'm grateful to have been invited to sit with you all in this panel and do this. So I did lose my son to an overdose on November 1st of 2020. And from that, I chose to pour pain into purpose as well. And from that is born Steps of Hope Iowa. It became a nonprofit, and our goal is basically to love people, but it's to help others and ultimately try to save lives, because nobody should have to go through what our families have gone through, right? But it does happen, and it's happening a lot, and it does not discriminate. So welcome to Steps of Hope. I'll say a little bit about that and then go back into the whole community thing, because it's all about community, and it's all about educating people and loving on people, and it's a team effort. So I'm grateful for every one of you, because you're all part of my journey now, and I'm grateful for that. So I will go on to this next slide. That is a picture of me with my son. It's got a little bit, I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but in a nutshell, I will just share with you that he, before he died, suggested that I start some kind of an outreach to help people like him, he said, because he saw that I did love people genuinely. And I didn't care who you were or where you were from or what happened. The goal was to love you. And so with that being said, after the sheriff pulled in my driveway and told me that my son was no longer here, everything changed. Everything changed on that day. And I did not know what my life was going to look like moving forward. But he did suggest that. And so with that being said, this is how it was all put together. Is the word walk was put on my heart. And so the very first year, his birthday, he was turning 30, May 20th. So it had been 6 months, and in a nutshell, I didn't know how I was going to breathe through it, to be honest, and I didn't care if I did. And when the word walk was put on my heart, I reached out to another mom across the country who I did not know, and she said it just takes a mom who needs to do something, and you create a Facebook event page, you show up and walk, and that's what we did year one, and about 150 people showed up. So that's how that began. Um, so moving forward. This is a picture of us at one of the walks. We have banners. We have the National Can You See Me Now banners. There's 150 faces on each banner, 32 banners as of right now. So you can do the math on that. That's a lot of people. And then we have our Iowa banners, which is just the people from Iowa that we honor, we remember, and with the walk, my ultimate goal is just to get resources into the hands of anybody and everybody that shows up, whether it be someone that's grieving, whether it be someone that's actively using, whether it be someone in recovery, whether it be someone who just wants to learn, So we've got, I think this year we had almost 40 community organizations tabling at the walk, handing out free resources and just embracing everybody that shows up. We walk together. We walk around the DMAC Ankeny campus pond, and it's beautiful. It's really, really neat. And this year was our 5th annual, and we do it on his birthday, May 20th, every year, because that's how I survived that day. And I'm so grateful that people show up because it does something for my heart. This community thing, it's a real thing in the healing process. So every person that is just there, whether you say anything or not, doesn't even matter. If you're just there, that your presence matters because you care, and that's a big deal. So there is the walk. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, and the walk this year, we ended up with like 650 people. So it's getting big because I think that people are starting to get it because of the INTOLIGHT project, because of the things that you all are doing, because of the different people that are speaking up, because the stigma that you hit on is a real thing, and people are not getting help because of it. And so if you want to talk about what's killing people, it is stigma. And so that's why I am very loud, because my son is no longer here and I have no more fear. And so I'm going to scream it from the mountaintops because people need to get help. And so that's what our goal is to help crush that stigma. So this is a picture of, we were at the governor's office. She's signed a proclamation for us to recognize Overdose Awareness Day. Polk County does theirs, which is fantastic. We've done several throughout Iowa cities. The Ankeny mayor did one for us. So the proclamation is, again, a part of the awareness to try and educate people, bring the awareness, have conversation, and let people see our faces, because you know what? It does happen to everybody, and people need to understand that. And if it hasn't happened to them yet, chances are it will, because it's out there and it's everywhere. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the picture on the right is actually one of the state of Iowa banners. That was the first year that we did the Overdose Awareness Memorial on the steps of the Capitol. And then on the left, that's our Polk County Courthouse. They light up purple. This year we had several buildings that were lighting up purple, which was really, really neat. And then this year we had 4 state of Iowa banners. So if that doesn't tell you, people are still dying. And so this is a big deal that it's talked about, because people need to understand, and people that are out there that have lost someone need to understand that they're not alone. So there's that. Another thing that we do is we put the naloxone boxes out there. So the picture on the left is one of the boxes, and it's an old refurbished newspaper machine. And there's naloxone that we put in it, which Narcan is the brand name. Naloxone is the medication, which reverses an opioid overdose. Everybody should have it. I have it at my home. I have it in my work. I have it in my car. I have it in my purse. And I have a case in my car for anybody who needs it that I happen to talk to, because I do talk about it often. Again, to crush the stigma, to educate people, and hopefully to save a life. We also partner with another organization out of New York, and we go to DC for what's called the National Trail of Truth. And they put a cemetery in front of, that year it was the Capitol. This year we were at the National Mall. It was just a couple weeks ago that I was in DC. And it's a huge, powerful memorial event that again is about educating and honoring our kids, our family members. I am raising my granddaughter, and she misses her dad. She's 12 now, and she was 7 when we lost him. And so she's, when you talk about the ripple effect, 100%, 100%. And there's, every loss is a son or daughter, and or a brother, sister, dad, mom, and people need to understand that as well, because it definitely affects a lot of people. So that is us at the Capitol. We ended up getting a tour while we were there, so that was kind of neat. And I got an opportunity to speak at Ankeny High School, which was super cool because I love kids and prevention is a big deal. And I want people to understand, I want kids to understand what's going on, because a long time ago, you could try something if you were curious and you didn't die from it. Today, your chances of dying are pretty good. So don't try it if it's not from a doctor. And I like to share that with the young people because, young people do get curious, and I want them to understand what's going on. And that's why so many people are dying. Yep. Okay, now I want to go back to the INTOLIGHT project, because I'll tell you what, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And I try not to cry here, but I remember when I walked in and to see how beautiful it was. And to kind of repeat what the other person had said about, feeling like, oh my gosh, they aren't looking at him in a negative light. Like, this is beautiful. And to see him in that realm, it was a huge deal. And I remember the initial impact of walking in, and I know most of the families that are in there, because of Steps of Hope, because we do our things here, and we all just get to know each other because we do get it, and we've become a big family essentially. And now the people at the University of Iowa is part of that family. The INTOLIGHT's part of our family. Like, we're all family, and we all lock arms and we all get through it together. But every piece of this is a piece of our healing journey. And so sometimes people don't realize the impact of community and the impact of just an act of kindness. It's okay to talk about it, right? It's okay to talk. Talking about an overdose can save a life. And that could save a child from losing their parent. It could save a mom from having to bury their child. There's so much that people, I just want to make it clear to everybody that kindness matters. And my son mattered. Teresa, your son mattered. They all mattered, and they all still matter. And they were amazing people. My son had the hugest heart. Like, he had a big heart. It was like anybody else came before he did. And if he was sitting in the street next to some guy who was cold, he gave him the Carhartt that I just bought him to keep him warm, right? So that's just who he was. And people need to understand, they just need to understand that love can move mountains. And that really is true. I've seen it, I've experienced it, and I'm so grateful, because that INTOLIGHT project, it's so beautiful, and just, it's beautiful and broken, right? Because we all know why they're there. But when you've got another mom, which I have another mom friend, I call them all my mom friends. And so I've got a mom friend, and she wanted to go see her son, but when she went there, it was closed, which is okay. And she took a picture on the on the steps of the building and sent it to me. And she said, "Yeah, Mikey decided I wasn't going to see him on his birthday." And at first I was like devastated, like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And she said, "No, this is just how he is. It's fine." And I said, "Well, maybe Mikey was telling you that you needed to be there with his friend because Mikey is right next to Daniel, my son, in that museum." I said, "Well, maybe that was him saying you were supposed to bring me because we're supposed to take the picture together." And so actually Saturday, yeah, I think it's this Saturday, I'm going to go pick her up and we're headed back to Iowa City so that we could take our picture with our boys. So yeah, I love everything that you're doing. And I'm so grateful for the University of Iowa, for the museum and Liz, and she's fantastic. You all are fantastic people and what you're doing is making a difference. And I'm grateful for that.
We're really excited to have you back in Iowa City.
Oh, I'm thrilled. Every time I go there, it's like I don't really want to leave because it's like there's this peace to it, right? Like it's beautiful and there's this peace about just walking in and it's almost like you get to hang out with your kid again. It's I just can't explain what happens inside of my heart when I get to go to take place of things like this. And then, of course, the gratitude and the songs. Oh my gosh, the songs, that is incredible. Like that is so incredible. And I know how much that's going to affect every family. And it's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And again, now you're part of our healing journey, right? And it's just every single thing matters. Every single thing matters. And even though it might seem like a little thing, it's not. It's bigger than you could ever think. And I'm just super, super grateful for all of it. So that being said, I actually did write something up and I didn't read off of any of that, just so you know. And this is just what happens because I start talking and then I just lose track. But it's an incredibly powerful space, what is created at the INTOLIGHT, through the INTOLIGHT project. And I do want to say, carry naloxone. It's easy to use. It's free. Reach out to me if you need some. I have it. Support families. Get involved. Walk with us. No more shame. No more stigma. Talking about it can save a life. And most importantly, do not stay silent because silence feeds stigma and speaking up saves lives. I am loud. I am proud of who my son was. Did he struggle? Absolutely. But I know who he was. I know who he was. And drugs do not define any of those kids, not one of them, because we know who they are and they are incredible people. So together, we will build a world where help is easier to find than judgment, where families feel supported, and where every life is treated as worth saving because it is. So thank you for listening and thank you for caring and thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this.
Thank you so much for sharing about your work and what you're doing is saving lives and spreading awareness, which is the most important thing we can do in the community. I want to thank all of our panelists for talking today. What you shared was really impactful for everyone here. And just a reminder that we recorded this session today and we'll be posting it on our website. So you can share this with anybody else you think might be interested in hearing about this. Feel free to stop by the Pentecost Museums to see the exhibit until December 19th. We are so happy to have everyone here in person today and in person at our exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Yeah.